Hi there. My name is Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks, and I apologize because we're a few minutes late because I made a mistake when I set things up, and I never make mistakes.
No,
So how could so did I say my name is
Beth
uh,
Green.
my name is Beth Green and otherwise known as Granny Rocks, and this over here is
Sweet baby James Maynard. I'm going to be handling the chat tonight, so please chat with us. And by the way, this show is the Granny Rocks Show, airing every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time.
so tonight. It's tonight here. I don't know what time it is there. Tonight I'm going to talk about something very important to a lot of us. It's new beginnings. And we want new beginnings to feel like this, don't we?
Yeah.
And sometimes new beginnings sound like this. How does that happen? Why does that happen? How could our best intentions be so subverted,
Really?
frustrated? How come we get up? We have the same frustrations. So, for instance, let's say you're in a new relationship. Uh-uh. Okay. So that's no good, is it? Anyway, or you move to a new house. And after a while, it begins to look exactly as awful and messed up as the old house. Or you have a new job and you think, this is it. This is going to be different. This is going to be wonderful, wonderful. And then you find that you have the same frustrations or similar frustrations or worse frustrations. How does this happen? That's what we want to talk about.
We've had a couple of hellos here.
Okay, hello.
Elizabeth says hi there and sends a rainbow and love.
Thank you.
And Catalina says good evening and also sends love.
Good evening,
Thank you.
Catalina.
Same back
Thank
at
you
you.
for the
Back at
love.
you.
Thank you for the love.
Oh,
So,
and Fenny says hi, good morning.
who is that?
Fenny.
Finny. Ah, I don't know your name, so we don't know how to pronounce it. But well, hi, good
But
morning
if it's
to you
good morning,
too.
that's the other side of the
Oh,
world.
wonderful, wonderful.
Welcome, welcome.
Yes. Okay. I hope you enjoyed the show.
Oh, we have another comment.
Yes.
Jim says, oh boy, it's a red evening, Beth and James. Hey, smile. Red drape on the piano, red cloak on Beth, and a red curtain. Ha ha. Love you both. I hope all is well. And he sends hearts.
Thank you. Well,
Thank you.
you know what red
Jim.
brings me? Lots of energy. That's what I'm hoping for because I'm really tired. Because we just came home from a trip and we are just like, trying to get it together. But we wouldn't miss this for the world, would we? No. Okay, so why do we start off with so many good intentions? New Year's, that's the most ridiculous
Oh,
one
that
of all,
is the most
isn't it?
ridiculous one, yeah.
It's like, okay.
Oh, and we have another comment.
Yes?
Amy says, is the reason that new beginnings tend to go sour is because we forget that we are still there with all the limitations as we had before the change? Ooh, I think that's a
Well, you may be
clue.
onto something, Amy, but would you please be quiet so you don't give away the show before I've even
Yeah,
done
you
it?
you
I
kind
mean,
of tuned into the theme of the
Don't
show
ruin
here.
it before me. No, I have.
You get an A plus for that, but
You get an A minus for group participation. So anyway, it's very similar to what you're saying, but
that's right.
I
There's
have
enough difference to be
there's
worth
enough to
listening
keep.
for.
Yes, you'll have to listen to find out. That's what I should have said. Well, you just stay tuned and you'll find out.
Well,
Won't
that's
you?
it. That's it.
So, anyway, so many times we've had painful experiences over and 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 over. And we want it to be different, and we really, really want it to be different. We really want it to be different. Different, different, different. The problem with new beginnings is that they don't work if we don't have completions. So it's very related to what you were saying, Amy. We have to have completions, full completions, in order to have new beginnings. Otherwise, we're dragging something in with us. It may not be exactly the way you put it, is that, well, I'm still here. But there may be things hanging on from the past. Now, what is resolution? What is completion? I should say, well, first, completion is we're done. We have finished something. And the other thing is it's resolution of our feelings. So,
would you explain that more fully, please?
So let's say you're in a relationship and you're still the guy, the old one is still living in your house. I mean,
or in your psyche.
Or in your psyche. You think I'm kidding. People, are still married 20 years after they break up, and they'll say, oh yeah, it's because of this or it's because of that. But very, very often you're just not done. You haven't completely resolved your inner conflicts or pain or issues. So, for example, I got a puppy because my old dog died. And I couldn't handle the pain. I just kept grieving and grieving. So we got a puppy. But was I really done? Was I really done grieving the other dog? No. And what happened was we had to let go of the puppy because we really couldn't handle a puppy. I mean, we tried for like 13 months or 14 months, whatever. But when we had to let go of the puppy, I started sobbing again uncontrollably and couldn't stop. Why? Because I hadn't even finished grieving the first one, even though I thought I had. There were things that I had not resolved in myself about that death. And something interesting happened. I was really trying to keep him, the original dog, alive. So I tried everything I could to keep him alive through the other puppy, which of course was a miserable situation. That wasn't really the right thing to do. Anyway, well, this weekend, it was our weekend. It was everybody else's week, but it was our weekend. Sweet baby James and I took a trip, and we went, into a campground with trees and, with the ocean and all of that. And I was determined to stop crying because I was crying about the old dog. I was crying about the new dog. I was crying about the loss of my house on the river. I was crying about the loss of the forest. I was crying about everything. I had been crying nonstop for about a year and a half. I mean, enough already. And I kept trying to have a new beginning. I have a beautiful new home, right? But no. There was still that pain in me. Then I had the new puppy, who of course I wanted to be just like the other one, even though it was impossible, and so on. So I said, okay, this is it. I am going to finish grieving now. I'm done. Well, what I discovered is that I had never really let go to start with. So I looked at everything that I was grieving, and there was a lot of stuff. My old home, the place that we lived, the river, the beauty of living in the forest, all of the things that I really loved, except for sweet baby James, who was still there. And I realized that I just hadn't buried them. And so I forced myself to visualize myself taking the dog who died, instead of giving him to the vet to bury, I took him home and I buried him on our property. And then I knew he was dead. You see, it's an emotional thing. It's not logical. It's just so true. And then leaving our home on the river, a place that I loved more than any place in my life, I saw myself taking the key and burying it. I buried the key. And I found all these symbolic ways.
So what about a past relationship? Do you bury the guy?
Well, that's a very good question. But I want to go a little bit further on this, and this will be part of the answer.
Okay.
Yes, maybe it's about you're still hanging on to a shirt of his that's sitting in your closet, and you have to burn it or give it away or do something symbolic. But it doesn't help to do the symbolic thing if you're not really doing it. And so it was like, okay, this part of my life is really over. And I have to be open to the next thing, to the new beginning, right? So part of what makes that difficult is when we have unresolved feelings, especially fear and guilt. So that could be about a relationship, it could be about a job, it could be about anything, something in ourselves. So Sweet Baby James went through. James, are there any more comments?
Yes, Blanquita says, hello, Beth and James.
Hello.
Hello, Blanquita. That's it.
Okay. Hola, Blanquita. Bienvenidos. So Sweet Baby James went through a process too, that we were looking at behavior. He's saying all the time, I'm not going to do that anymore. No, I'm done with that behavior. I'm not going to ever do that again. I'm done. And that was 2 minutes later, he's doing exactly the same thing, right? So that's really important, right? Can't free himself because there was something not resolved about where that behavior came from. It wasn't complete. He had an idea in his head about where that behavior came from, but as it turned out, we did some exploration that he was actually ready for. He was ready to know. And we discovered that the reason for that behavior wasn't anything like what he thought it was. It was really something different. And fortunately, I'm an intuitive counselor, and I was able to delve into it. But if you don't happen to be married to an intuitive counselor, or you don't have that in yourself, you can ask for help. What is it that you are, where did that come from? Where did that fear really come from? It's like I noticed I was watching him making breakfast. See, I was using every opportunity. I was watching him make breakfast, and he was moving like this. And I realized that he was afraid to do something. And I said, were you clumsy as a child, or what was it?
Or slow.
Or slow, or what? So he's not exactly fast, but he's not that slow. And what it was, it turned out...
Shall I share it?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, it turns out that I had a fear of my mother getting upset if I broke something, like I did break a glass.
James.
Yeah, and then it turned out that my
thought
mother
that
was
you had
afraid
a
of
fear.
my father's judgment and criticism if anything went wrong in the household while he was gone. And so it was really the fear that she had of my father, and I got that from her too, that when he gets home, he's going to be upset. And so
he's gonna
that
blame
made
her.
me move slow ever since to avoid making a mistake, and there was a fear going on all the time.
Absolutely. I just wanted to add another piece to that, which is when she made a mistake, your father put her down.
And I saw that.
And you saw that. So his fear didn't even have as much to do. He thought it was all his mother, like, oh, she was mean, or she was like that. And it turned out that it was really a fear of his father in those two different ways. So thank you for sharing that. And the other thing was that we cleared up was really big too.
Oh, yeah. Simply my relationship to God. You know, when I was 6 years old, I had a mystical experience. I felt the divine presence. And then later on, I thought I was going to become a minister. And then later on after that, I didn't go that direction at all. And I thought, oh, I turned my back on God. I feel ashamed. I feel guilty. And then as we looked into it more fully, I simply changed my beliefs, you know, that I didn't believe the kind of doctrines that were being handed down by the church, or their characterization of God as so many things. And so I took away the guilt, took away the shame. And so that is one less burden I was carrying inside of me.
Right.
That allowed me to have a new beginning with you, for example, because you're a very spiritual person, and you've come up with different things, very different from Orthodox kind of religious spiritual beliefs. And now I feel so more fully in alignment and in attunement with you and the kind of things that have come to you in regard to God and spirituality.
So he was afraid to bond with me totally in front of God because he felt guilty and afraid, of course, because he came into a religion that was punitive and shaming and all of that. So, well, I want to tell you something. We had a new beginning. I mean, it was really different. We had the most amazing day where, you know, things kept going wrong, and it was like, oh, well, things are going wrong.
We still had our harmony. We had this new level of harmony.
So he didn't freak out time something went wrong, and he wasn't afraid to bond with me, and we had a sense of partnership. Well, that's a miracle. I mean, it's a miracle. We've been together for 10 years and we couldn't do that. So that's what I want to share with you. It's the problem isn't the beginning. The problem is the end. The problem is, what have we not resolved? And I want you to think about, I'm going to play for the piano for a minute. I want you to think about something in your life where you've been trying to have a new beginning, but you can't. That you can't seem to go on to dating somebody else, or you get a job and you're finding yourself in the same attitudes. Why don't you look inside and see if you can find something that you have not resolved? And I'm going to play the piano.
Okay.
Are you feeling guilty towards somebody in your past and you can't let go? Or are you holding on to them? But then why? And one of the reasons that I was holding on to my dogs is that I didn't feel connected to James. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't let go of the dogs.
Well, you went in and out of connection is what you did.
That's right. I couldn't count on it, whereas I could count on the dogs. So it's all connected, right? So guys, be fearless. Look at yourself. Are you hanging on? What do you have to do to stop hanging on? What haven't you resolved in yourself? A lot of people think that, oh yeah, I've resolved everything. I'm fine. I love myself. I'm wonderful. Well, maybe you haven't, and maybe you need to. And there's nothing right about feeling guilty about the past. It doesn't help anything or anybody. And then you need to ask yourself, well, why are you feeling guilty about this? You know, a question that leads to a question that leads to a question that leads to a question. See, sweet baby James used to look at me and say, well, Beth followed her spiritual path and never held back. So that makes me a bad person. And so that connecting to me was a source of pain for him. And being observed in making mistakes was a source of fear. Pain and fear, those are the two things I'm talking about today. There may be other things. So let's stop kidding ourselves about all these new beginnings. Unless we're willing to have completions, there is no new beginning. But if we are willing and we work our hearts out and try to figure it out, maybe we'll actually get there. So, please share this show with people who are stuck, who are having trouble with new beginnings, who are kind of... I'm not saying that the grief process isn't normal. I mean, there is a normal grief process. But if you get stuck there, there's a reason, guys. And it doesn't have to be as long as we do it at times, because there may be something unresolved. So a little bit of self-awareness goes a long way. So please share this show with people who may need this, may need to hear this. And also, please like it and love it, and do our Facebook page, follow our page. What is it, James?
I would just like to share about some of the people who have given likes and loves to what you're saying, what the communications are. Sonam gives it a like, Karen gives it a love, Catalina gives it a like, Kimberly gives it a like, Martha gives it a love, and Augustinus gives it a like.
Wonderful.
So thank you very much for participating.
Thank you for everything that you do. We will be here next Wednesday with another Granny Rock show where I share something that you may or may not want to hear. And if you're finding, for example, that you want to have a new bringing, you have a New Year's resolution, you're not going to drink anymore, or you're not going to drink more than you should anymore, and you're still doing it, don't just beat yourself up.
Or any kind of addictive patterns, eating patterns, and so on.
Right. It's like, what is not complete in you so that you do not feel whole enough to live without it? That's what I would challenge you to look at. And I just also want to remind you that every Thursday night, I play the piano. Beth Grin's Magical Piano Improvisations. Pure piano with a little chatting, and that's at 7 p.m. Pacific time every Thursday, and every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, we do Granny Rocks. So, that's it.
That's it. Bye-bye for now.
Because new beginnings can work and can be glorious. We love you. Thanks for joining us, as always, and for all your love and support.